Yeah, well, I think we got it. We're good. All right, so welcome, guys. Johnny's Jabs. This is a new episode, and this is a bit different than we've done in past episodes because I have the beautiful, marvelous, smart Anna Bowler from Vermont, the great state of Vermont, sitting with me
Hey,
today. She's a family friend, and we're here to do the same of what I've been doing all this time, which is talk politics with you
My
guys.
favorite.
Yeah, Anna is a family friend, and we've known each other for a minute now. And
Yeah, a couple.
yeah, we have some great conversations with regards to politics, and I thought you'd be a great addition
Thank you.
to
Thank
the
you.
show. What
Glad
I
to be
wanted,
here.
yeah, what I want to do, just to let you guys know, with guests, is my whole philosophy is that people don't just wake up and have political opinions. They don't just decide like one day, hey, I'm going to be a Republican or I'm going to be a Democrat or I'm going to be an anarchist or whatever it is.
Of course, there are exceptions.
Well, okay,
but,
yeah.
but it's true
Yeah.
in general.
But my whole thing is, and I hope this comes through in talking with Anna, is that our political beliefs are shaped by our experiences. Nothing is born in a vacuum. And through Anna and I's agreements and disagreements, you guys will see how our own experiences shaped our beliefs. But before we do any of that, some big stuff happened yesterday, and we want to tell the people and give our reactions to it.
Yeah.
Do you want to spill the beans?
Big stuff.
Yeah.
Bernie won Nevada by a landslide.
Yeah.
And Pete Buttigieg was not a close second. He was a far second.
Wasn't he third?
Yes, actually.
Third, yeah.
I mean, 12 hours is a long time. But,
well, they're not done counting. I think 50
not.
or 60% of the votes are in right now. But
being early afternoon on Sunday.
Yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is the day after. Look, it's a resounding victory for Bernie.
It is. I mean, I just went to the corner store and his face is all over the newspapers. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's crazy that, with the mainstream media, with the victories in Iowa and New Hampshire, there was this kind of agenda trying to say a win is not a win.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Bill Clinton still won the election, and lost Iowa and New Hampshire.
All that.
So
narrative.
this could still happen. But I think what you're trying to say is that because Bernie won Nevada, he has this strength and momentum behind him that, knock on wood, will propel him through the rest of the primaries.
So you're a Bernie supporter.
Let's
see.
Did I give that away?
Yeah. Well, okay. So anyways, we have three takeaways that we will discuss right now. But the first one we're kind of getting into is that the Bernie victory is quite resounding. And I think it's interesting talking about the media is that they're all surprised because you remember when Trump was winning the primaries in 2016.
There was a lot of denial.
There was a lot of denial, and then once they started realizing this was a ball that was rolling.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, all the political think pieces came out like, oh, who is the Trump voter? Why are they so angry? What are they thinking about?
Just want to disrupt the status quo, and they're not actually voting for Trump as a person, as a leader.
No, but there was a sincere effort once Trump was winning. Like, oh, who is this mythical Trump voter?
Right.
When do you think
he's a businessman?
Yeah.
He's gonna do great for our economy. He's gonna, I don't know, put money in people's pockets.
Yeah.
He's, American dream. He's gonna represent the working man.
I mean, that's what people were. That's why they liked him. But when do you think all the think pieces about the Bernie supporter is going to come out? Because you're already seeing like Joyanne Reid on MSNBC saying,
I think people are already talking about it. We're already talking about it.
We are, but mainstream media, I think it's Chris Matthews. He got like crazy backlash for comparing Bernie's victory in Nevada to the Nazis winning in France, or not winning, taking invading France. Sorry.
Right. So when our people going to sink their teeth into democratic socialism?
Yeah.
Is that what you're wondering?
Or when the mainstream media is going to just kind of accept it and not resist so much. Like, are they starting to, I guess, bend to the idea that Bernie Sanders is leading a movement?
Let's think about it this way.
Yeah.
Bernie ran for president in 2016 with the thought that he was going to move the Democratic Party left.
Yeah.
And in doing so, fight for the working class and bring more young people on board and make politics more accessible and try to better represent America.
Yeah.
And he did that. He did it because he wasn't, I think even in his early campaign, he wasn't worried about winning.
Yeah.
That was his goal. He wanted to bring these issues of Medicaid for all, cheaper college, these working class issues to the forefront.
Yeah.
Instead of just changing the tax code. And he did that already, you know? And in the last 3.5 years, it's snowballed. He's garnered all that support. He's made more of a name for himself. There's recognition. And I think he's ready to take the next step because he's clarified his goals.
You know, I think something has to be said about when the goal is not to win, but the goal is actual revolution. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You said it. You said that in 2016, his goal wasn't to...
It wasn't necessarily to win the population. Yeah. He went farther than he expected.
Yeah.
He went farther than any one of us expected.
I think he felt that there was a need within a quote-unquote democratic society, and a society that idealizes democracy, that there should be some kind of...
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah,
keep going.
But yeah, there's a lot... there's a need to challenge the status quo, and no one was really doing it. Like, even, you know, Hillary Clinton had her campaign going 2015, 2016, and who was it? Governor of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, wasn't really posing a real threat to Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Barack Obama ran uncontested in 2012. I mean, there were rumors that Bernie was going to primary him in 2012.
I actually heard those recently.
Yeah, they're bringing it up again, I guess, to discredit Bernie as a Democrat. But
hey,
yeah, I think there's
a
lot to be said. But the second takeaway that I thought, this was a big takeaway for me, and I think it's because my prediction going into Nevada, I predicted that Elizabeth Warren, she had a fantastic debate performance on Thursday night or Wednesday night, and she eviscerated Mike Bloomberg, and I thought
someone needed to.
Yeah, I thought it would bump her into second, but by all looks so far, she is not in second place. She's not in third place. Mm-hmm. Looks to be that she's in fourth place. And yesterday, during her speech, she was making the case for herself yet again to be president. It wasn't a conciliatory speech like, all right, we need to get together behind Bernie.
Was it a rallying cry? I missed it.
It was like a rallying cry for herself. It looked like what she claimed was like, thank you for keeping me in the race. And like, homegirl, I don't know if you're in the race still. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your reaction to Warren and I guess the fall of Warren in contrast to the rise of Bernie? You know, New England liberals, I don't want to call her a full progressive.
No, because she's a self-proclaimed capitalist and she's proud of it.
Yeah, and there's other issues too. But what's your reaction to that?
To Warren's rise and fall?
Rise, fall, yeah. All of it.
Well, as far as Nevada goes, I've heard other people say this, so it's not original, but there were so many early votes that happened before the debate.
Yeah.
So people may not have taken into account her firepower in that debate.
But okay.
But that's a cheap shot.
But well, no. It's not a cheap shot. It's okay. Let's do a quick analogy. Amy Klobuchar has a fantastic pre-New Hampshire debate performance, which I credit to her boost in New Hampshire. She was third, and a strong third. She was like 20% of the vote.
That was a big win for her.
So why does the debate performance do well for Amy Klobuchar in New Hampshire, but strong debate stronger by all accounts, I would say, for Elizabeth Warren doesn't turn into real numbers for her in Nevada? Because you could have done early voting in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Well. No, I get that argument, and I wonder if it has to do with the structure of the caucuses.
Okay.
Because you put down your second vote.
Yeah.
Or your second choice.
Yeah.
And it goes better with the viability of candidates versus putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Where you do in the primaries. You know, it's like, I want this person and this person only will do, and that's my vote. Whereas a caucus, you can say, you know, this is my first choice, but I'm the only one in my group who thinks that. So, you know, if I'm voting for Warren, and I'm the only one in the group, I will have to make exceptions and go with the candidate who garners more support in that group. I mean, honestly, this is the first time I've really paid attention to the structure of caucuses.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
I really...
And each state does it differently.
I'm kind of sold. I like them.
You do?
I do.
So, okay. Well, maybe we should get into that in a bit. I don't know. You want to go into it now? Let's go there.
Let's go there. Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Because the reasons for it.
Yeah.
You already talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
That
I mean the first and second vote.
Your second choice gets attention. All right. The reasons people don't like it. You literally have to show your face and who you're voting with. So it could be intimidating at times.
Takes longer.
Yes, it takes longer. And then you have to actually, for the most part, you could do ranked choice and then do a pre-ballot or whatever. Mm-hmm. But to actually be there to take off of work, it detracts people from actually participating. Whereas a full day primary where people go to a ballot and can vote.
8 a.m. to 7 p.m. or whatever it is.
Look, I don't know. I like the idea of ranked choice, and I like the idea if people go to send an absentee ballot, but I've done an absentee ballot before, and it takes time. You have to plan shit out, and
you plan it. Well, and then you have to do your research, and especially if you're abroad and you're not necessarily exposed to the media at home.
Yeah.
It does take time.
So I feel like it...
And hope it's counted.
Yeah, and I feel like it takes people away from the vote.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a good compromise, and I think they do it in Maine, is to just do ranked choice ballots. Go in and rank your choices. And
there's an element of conversation that I like about caucuses.
Swaying the voter and everything.
About talking with your neighbors and figuring out who would best represent your community.
Yeah.
And if you're an outlier, if I were an outlier, I would consider changing my vote.
Yeah.
Because what we were talking yesterday about Nader, right?
Yeah. Well, everyone.
You know, if you have a section of people who believe a certain thing, and that section of people is divided in and of itself, you know, you want to support what is good for the majority of the people. You
want to support the winning horse. You know, you're going to want to bet on the winning horse.
Right.
And no, there is an element, and especially you're talking about community politics and stuff, and being that you're from Brattleboro, Vermont, not a big city by any means.
Right.
You know your neighbors. You could talk with your neighbors about issues that are affecting them.
Here's the big difference. If say I got voted onto the select board or something. Yeah. And I voted on a policy no one really agreed with. Yeah. There would be direct repercussions for me. it keeps people honest.
Okay.
In the smaller communities, and I hope, I don't know, I've never been involved in a caucus, but I feel like there could be a situation where that reciprocation and being held accountable for things shows up in that.
Okay.
In that
Respect.
arena.
Respect.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Curious.
We'll get into a little bit more of that, the Nader stuff, I guess, later. But my last takeaway from Nevada is, all right, Bloomberg, and like, it's not necessarily a takeaway from Nevada, but it's just a, hey, you know, like, we can project going into South Carolina now that Bernie has the momentum, Bernie's got the people behind him, but we also have a situation where this is unprecedented in American history. Like, this will go down in history books for sure.
Absolutely.
No matter how it turns out, that for the first time ever.
Citizens United. Anyway.
Yeah. An actual capitalist, someone who wields their capital for political influence.
Yes. Because that is
and for more power.
Essentially what he's doing.
Yeah. But an actual capitalist is wielding their capital to influence the outcome of this election. And, like, how does that play?
It makes me feel dirty.
But how does that play into the other side, the grassroots movement? If we want to be generous, we could call it a full revolution. How does that, you know, play into it? The revolution, if you will.
Right. I think it takes away the power from the people.
Okay. And do you think it actually will, though? Like, I mean, he got eviscerated by Elizabeth Warren. The numbers went down for him immediately. We saw like a 2-point drop in polls for like support for Bloomberg.
He's a terrible debater.
But he was a horrific debater.
Yeah.
He had ring rust for sure, but I also think he looked like shit. Like, I don't think he looked good on stage. He looked pompous and arrogant.
He was like, "I'm here. That's what you." Like,
yeah.
What more do you need from me? I'm here. I showed up.
And he looked like he couldn't give two shits about any of the things that they were criticizing him for, because he could go rest on his $65 billion at home.
Right.
But nonetheless, he's throwing money at all these states on Super Tuesday. And, you know, I guess people...
I don't know how it'll change.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't... His argument is that he is investing in Trump losing the election.
Yeah.
He's throwing all his money at I guess ads. He's throwing all his money at the media.
Branding.
And
it's
taking up the airwaves, basically, like he did in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And his argument is that he will throw as much money as needed to make sure that Trump loses. And that, I don't feel like, is a whole argument.
It's such a vanity project, though. There are so many things you could do with... How much money has he invested so far? $500 million... That you could do with $500 million to take down Donald Trump.
So many things.
I would argue that Tom Steyer, who's the other billionaire in the field, I think he's done a better job of using his capital to take down Trump, creating that PAC, the impeachment PAC and stuff. And like you could speak to issues and everything.
Well, and he has a place in my heart because he's such an environmental candidate.
Okay.
You know, and he spends a lot of his money. And he's putting himself out there, but he has priorities that I align with.
Yeah.
So. No,
I gotta say, there's been critiques of him, like saying, the way that he amassed his wealth has been
Steyer.
At the cost of the environment and everything. But sometimes you got to take people for their word when they're on stage. And
there's got to be a point where if you're a businessman for a long time and the status quo for so long was that, we'll just carry on as we are and we'll be fine.
Yeah. The status quo wasn't believing in the science.
Exactly. Or the science that was there seemed too crazy.
Yeah.
Or, we didn't talk about the environment like we do today.
Yeah.
Every day.
Or it was all speculative in terms of what the results are going to be, and here we are 30, 40 years later, and we're actually seeing droughts and fires.
It's real. And people have to leave their homes.
And
their land is getting destroyed. The crops are getting destroyed.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking is that, there's got to be a point when you're a successful businessman and you look at what you've done and the science sinks in. It's like, okay, I've been successful. I've built up all this war chest.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with it? And I think he's making the right choices.
Okay.
I hope there's room for him in the cabinet.
No, I'll tell you what, really out of the field, and I feel like crazy even saying this because I wouldn't have ever thought that I would, but he's my my second choice to Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. I really liked Marianne Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if...
Tell me why.
She had great, overall messaging, political philosophy, right? Maybe her plans weren't, on point, but just, the total language of everything, and she won me over when she was talking about reparations, and she said,
she was the only one who talked about reparations.
She was the only one, but when they asked, everyone was like, oh yeah, we're discussing how much we have to give to the African American community, and she's like, no. You are thinking about it in a horrific way. It's not, oh, we have to give them something. A debt, amount. She said, she's the only one that said, a debt is owed.
Mm-hmm.
That we have taken labor from slaves, and built this country, and that is wealth that has not been able to be passed on from generation to generation to generation.
Right.
I mean,
and there's very little acknowledgement, if any.
Yeah. So, look, she didn't say, oh, we have to give black people in this country however much. She didn't say, oh, we have to put money into education in inner cities. She didn't say any of that.
No, mad props to her for bringing that up.
But the fact that she brought it up and that she said she wants to put in place as a president, which she's not going to be, but she wanted to put into place a commission to study it and then for them to determine how that debt is repaid.
Right.
What that debt is, how it's repaid, and
that's
everything.
Where her philosophy makes more sense, and she's not putting her own desires and opinions out there. She's like, this needs to happen because it's based upon the philosophy of the my idea of the United States.
Sure. So that was the issue that won me over. So when she said it, I listened. But then also the other things that she was talking about was she was not talking about health care in a vacuum, as though, all these environmental regulations that we're letting out of the window and everything don't play a part in people's actual health, that the crisis in Flint, Michigan is not part of the healthcare crisis, which then we see in terms of the overall costs of medication. And she talked about it holistically and how it is a problem at the core.
You don't have individual issues.
Exactly.
It's they relate to each other and they affect each other.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh, she's a bunch of woo-woo." Well, guess what? The woo-woo, the woo-woo is leading her politics in the right direction.
And her heart is in the right place, right? It's all about love.
Exactly. So, Marianne, if you're watching, I love you. I love you, baby girl. I really do. Anyways, what were we even talking about?
We were talking about Bloomberg.
And Stein. Stein.
And should millionaires and billionaires exist?
So good question.
Right?
Yeah, I
thought it was a great question.
So, okay, it's not like, oh, do we put a delete button and vanish Bloomberg out? It's
I think where it comes from is, should we allow the capitalist system we created to get to the point where it has in creating millionaires and billionaires and leaving the rest of the population behind? Is that is that moral?
So here's the thing. I think in 2008, when we elected Barack Obama, it was the beginning. I don't want to say the beginning. No, it was part of this larger movement. I don't want to say particularly in the Black community, but of this kind of veneration of Black excellence, which didn't just translate for
it got a lot more people involved.
Yeah, but okay, so now we have a Black man at the highest office in the executive branch of our government, and then it's now we're getting our first Latina Supreme Court justice, and now it's all these representation as
it makes a huge difference
as points of excellence.
Yes.
The problem with capitalism is that people saw back then is that, you look at all the billionaires in the world and how many of them are white men, and we're not seeing the rise of people of color or of women in that class.
The representation of the United States in that billionaire class
is not represented.
Right.
But then it's now the billionaire class looks at it and is we have a problem at our hands. We want to be able to open the doors for Black men and women, for LGBTQ people, for Hispanic people, for Asians, whatever it might be, to be part of that.
So many other things
to be part of that. Way. Yeah, to be part of that class, and it's things. The question is
that goes to white privilege.
Yes, it does.
That speaks entirely to privilege.
It does, but just to go back to the billionaire thing, why are we so concerned with representation in a billionaire class when having representation in that billionaire class
in the government
and in the government
needed in the government
does not prove results? The election of Barack Obama did not prove massive results for the alleviation of pain and of strife within the African American community. The ascendance of Sotomayor in the Justice Department does not make anything better for Latino and Latina men and women.
It starts something. It's a tiny...
But do you get what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying.
But even let's extrapolate to the billionaire class, because that's what we were talking about. Your take.
My take?
Should they exist?
No, I don't think they should.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it right now. I don't think they should, and I think, maybe we shouldn't put into we shouldn't make a law that says, you shouldn't exist. You shouldn't earn all the money you want to make, right?
Yeah.
But we should create a tax code that makes it harder to get there.
Yeah.
I don't think giving millionaires and billionaires tax breaks is moral.
Yeah.
I think that we should all pay our dues.
Yeah.
And that those dues should not go to Mar-a-Lago. They should go to roads and schools and support jobs in the clean energy industries, and those who make more money should pay the same ratios.
I say more money, they should pay more. Look, I'll never forget a moment when I was a child. My parents were Republicans. They may or may not still be affiliated with the party. I know they don't vote for Republicans in federal elections. I'm not trying to put you out there, Mama and Baba. I love you. But I remember, so my mom, she was super for Bob Dole in 1996. And so I don't know, I was 11 years old, 10, 11 years old at the time. And so I'm learning just the basics of everything. And I'm oh yeah, it's not fair. People who make more money shouldn't pay more taxes. That's not what I believe now. But I remember my mom at the time, who was a Republican, she's no, it's not fair. And I remember that was the first moment that I was it kind of dawned on me, because she just corrected me. Even though she was a Republican, she believed in the Republican Party at the time, that she believed in this idea that, look, sometimes when people are not making money like other people are making. It doesn't mean that you need to have some kind of like uh, austerity type, just like a 10% on everyone, no matter what.
Right.
She even understood as a Republican. She understood no, like there's a basic level of income that should not be taxed.
Yeah.
You know,
Agreed.
and then she believed in more.
As you make more and more, what gets taxed is different.
Yeah, but I'll never forget that moment, and I think that opened my eyes as a child. And then I got to form my own political opinions growing up and everything.
I think that also speaks to the changes in the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah.
Since then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, they've become more of a party that protects Wall Street.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, it's overall, yes. I was going to say that, with the rise of Trump. But Trump is not he's not a real populist. But you definitely have
He's a nationalist.
You have a faction within the Republican base that also, look, they have the same kind of sentiments that we do on the left.
Yeah, absolutely.
The anger towards Wall Street.
And when I say that,
the anger towards the big banks.
And the Republican Party's changed.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party's changed.
Oh, it's changing right before our very eyes.
Yeah, and it speaks to the change in what people want.
Yeah.
New sources of information, new information.
Yeah.
As people learn and grow and have kids, and those kids grow, the priorities change.
Yeah. Anna, we got a few more minutes still, but I wanted to go into you and talk about your life, where you're at, how you grew up and everything, because like I said at the beginning of this, I don't believe that politics are born in a vacuum. We touched a bit upon your politics and that you are from Vermont, but tell me about, basic biographical information, and then also I want to hear about your first memories of politics.
Yeah.
And it could be some of the stuff that we discussed yesterday.
Yeah. Well, currently, I'm a small business owner in Vermont. I work in solar asset management, and but it took me a while to get to Vermont. I was born in Oregon, and I moved around a lot on the West Coast, to England, on the East Coast. But since high school, I really settled in Vermont and live there now.
The reason for those moves?
Reason for those moves was my dad was a Unitarian minister, and he went to seminary in Oxford, England. When we were in England, my mom wanted more sunshine, and he wanted to stay in Oregon. My mom was from California, so Vermont was right smack dab in the middle. It was the compromise.
Yeah. Where in California was your mom from?
Bay Area.
Bay Area? Okay.
Alameda.
So, and what year was she born?
61.
All right, so she grew up with a lot of the movements of the time then.
Somewhat.
In the Bay Area.
Somewhat. Yeah. I don't really know.
Civil rights, gay rights were big.
Yeah,
at the
I think
time.
more at the end of the wave.
Yeah.
Probably. But she was an artist.
Yeah.
She went to UC Santa Barbara. And so that, she was in that whole artistic awakening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But Dad, he got into the Unitarian Church. Describe the church a bit, because from my knowledge, it's more of a we talk woo. I don't want to say.
Well,
it's more of a liberal church.
Excuse me. I think when you don't necessarily have a holy book, and traditions that have been passed down for thousands of years, it can seem a little woo woo.
And I apologize.
I'm justifying your reaction.
And just to full disclosure, in terms of the traditions, I grew up in the Orthodox Church, Eastern Orthodox Church. So my church experience has always been very, it's steeped in tradition. In fact, the philosophy behind the Orthodox Church is that the spiritual aspect of it, feeling closer to God, is entrenched in the repetition of the tradition.
And it's funny that you bring that up, because I spent my time as a preacher's kid in the Unitarian Church.
Yeah.
And now my dad is back in the Episcopal Church because of exactly that.
Interesting.
Because he appreciates the tradition.
Yeah.
And doing the same things because I mean, I can't speak for him, but I can imagine that it would give you more comfort.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because, like, I think everyone kind of goes through spiritual ups and downs and stuff, and for me,
Absolutely.
like, you know, I'm definitely involved in leftist politics and everything, but even in politics, I don't find a spiritual awakening. I definitely take my political cues from a lot of my religious upbringing, the teachings of Christ and everything. But it's more, the older I get, the more I have that appreciation for the traditions of the church, and I enjoy it a lot more.
I think that people are finding their spirituality in politics now.
Yeah.
Because it feels like such a revolution. It feels like we have something to fight against.
Yeah.
And the hard work will be to build something that we want.
Yeah.
And to build something that works. Because it's easy to fight against the man.
Yeah.
But imagine you win. Now what?
Well, that's kind of where we're getting at this point, and we don't want to take everything for granted. Like I know we have work to do in the Bernie campaign and everything, or whatever campaign you're part of. If you're just on the left,
you have to support
there's a lot of
your
work.
Ideas and your values, and try to find a candidate that aligns with those.
Sure, but
you have to put the work in.
It's to say this win in Nevada is a big win, and seeing that there's a great possibility he could be the Democratic nominee is a huge win.
It is
for those of us in the movement.
Absolutely, it's a win for the working class.
Yeah,
it's a win for the poor because he seems like the only voice that's speaking for them.
Yeah. Continues though about your upbringing and your first political memories and everything, and just what you learned in the church also and stuff.
Yeah, well, you know,
I'm trying to like get everything in at the end about your biography and all that, but just whatever comes out naturally is most important.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed growing up in the Unitarian Church because I was an only child, and it gave me some interaction, some social interaction in a place that tried to unify people.
Yeah.
And so that was really appreciated. I felt like I gained some good basic knowledge about world religions and about people's views on spirituality.
Yeah.
And hearing my dad's sermons every Saturday night, a little trial run. That was good. But my first memory of listening and knowing about politics and being aware of the process was probably the 2000 election.
Okay. Bush v. Gore.
Yeah.
That went all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, I was aware of Clinton.
Yeah.
And Monica Lewinsky, right?
That's how I learned about oral sex. I think it's how we all learn, like our generation.
I think so. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
But following I think it was just the general election, really, in 2000.
Yeah.
Really
when Gore
peaked.
got more votes.
Yeah, hanging chads, dimpled chads, all that bullshit in Florida.
And then the Supreme Court voted to end the recount in Florida.
Right, yeah.
Thereby awarding the election to George W. Bush.
Right.
Because on the first count, he was the winner. And then they were trying to do the contesting of the hanging chads. But anyways, what did that tell you at the time about politics? How were your parents and maybe the people that you were growing up with? How was their commentary influential on your take of the situation?
I felt that, going back to Nader, I felt that the Democratic Party really needed to unify people.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even happening then.
Yeah.
You know? I think it changed a little bit with Barack Obama. But that was my first experience that showed me that division in parties was dangerous.
So, okay, because I have a bit of a different opinion on
I
that.
want to hear it.
But like, let's your take on transformative. I don't know what to say if they're transform, but they're influential political figures such as Ralph Nader, Jill Stein, Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson definitely not part of the left movement. I would definitely put Ralph Nader and
The
Jill.
Tea Party movement.
Yeah,
Kind of
I would put Ralph Nader and Jill Stein well within the leftist movements of the United States, and figures whom I look up to. Ralph Nader, being that he is Arab American, and
that's what it is,
and
right?
that he's from Connecticut. Both things, Connecticut, Arab American. Shout out to all my Lebanese people
Checks off all the Johnny boxes
in Waterbury and around the area. But yeah, he checks the boxes for me. But also looking at his work as a consumer advocate and seeing that he is the reason we have seatbelts in cars.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong.
And
I would have loved to have voted for him.
Sure, but you know, like when he comes at it in 2000 with an anti-war message, afraid of the military-industrial complex, and then he comes at it even stronger in 2004 when we didn't have an anti-war candidate.
That was after 9/11.
That was after 9/11.
The world changed a lot.
The world changed for Americans.
I was just gonna correct myself.
It's okay.
Thank you.
But that's the idea. In our view, the world was, oh my gosh, now it's on our front door.
Right.
But here we have Ralph Nader, really the only one in the country speaking up about it. I voted for him in 2004 because it was not enough for me to get behind John Kerry. I needed. Right. I remember I was like the lone voice in my high school. One of very few. There were a few other friends who also understood that threat of war was ridiculous and horrific. But being that that's the stand that I took, and I knew that, you know, it's not that I'm an American through and through, but when the war is being conducted against Iraqis, people whom I share a language with, people who look like me, whose culture is very much in line with the culture that I grew up with, and then you have the entire country and the media system telling me that they're evil people, that they're bad, that they're and I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
I know. When you say it that way, I feel like not much has changed.
But then, you know, where do I go politically? Because I don't have a home in the Democratic Party. Like,
and you don't want to sell your soul.
Even Howard Dean, who had a great like people's movement, I remember in 2004. I thought he fell short when he was talking anti-war. It was always about the cost of war, whereas deep inside, I felt like, why is the cost the reason? Why is the fact that
about, like, a just
babies,
war.
Arab babies, brown babies are dying and being obliterated? Why is that not enough?
Right.
You know, so
no, that hurts when somebody says that's not enough, and it's like it's nuclear weapons, chemical weapons.
Because and sorry, I'm talking like so much right now, but like if we think
these are issues that we grew up with and we dealt with early on in our understanding of politics, and seeing the way that Trump deals with them now and feeling like nothing has changed hurts.
Yeah.
Because it makes people feel attacked, and it makes people feel like they're not being heard.
Yeah.
And their voices aren't being heard.
But here's the thing, because back to you saying that you wish there was unity among Democrats.
I wish there was unity across the aisle. I wish there was a holistic, idea that we can do better for ourselves.
But even still, like, even within that unity, I still haven't felt, I don't feel that the compassion for brown people, for babies on the other side of the globe is even there within the Democratic Party most of the time, and we're finding a bit of a home with it. We're finding a home with it in Bernie Sanders.
Absolutely.
So that's where I come at in terms of I'm okay with Ralph Nader running a third party ticket.
Right.
Because
he speaks for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of that to talk about the thing.
No, I asked you. I opened that can of worms, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. But yeah, so
you have to vote your heart.
Exactly.
Right? You have to, especially in the primaries.
We're at 45 minutes. I want to get so much more into it. We talked yesterday. We had a full-on conversation about so many things. We talked about healthcare.
Yeah. Guns.
We talked even more
the
about
environment.
Yeah, we talked more about the influences of the Unitarian Church on your political beliefs and stuff. But I don't want to go over time.
No, I think
right now.
But. I think that the really essence of what I want to say, as far as the support that the Bernie campaign has garnered, is that it's really about making a baseline starting point for people to get their lives back on track. And people to feel like they can make plans.
Yeah.
Because the poverty is so drastic in this country now.
Yeah.
And I think that, Bernie inspiring these people gives them hope.
Not even inspiring, but
speaking for them too.
But like the actual repercussions. I think yesterday we talked about, wanting people to have a baseline, and you define that baseline as
healthcare, housing, and
food.
Yeah. It's the simple things that people need.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, you can't plan.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. And that's what Bernie wants to make sure that people have.
Yeah.
Are those basics.
Yeah.
And then people can flourish from there.
Yeah. That's awesome, Anna. Anna, you were fantastic. An amazing.
You're fantastic. Thank you for doing this.
I love you, girl.
Love you too, man.
Tell people about your business, where they could find you, what's happening in Vermont.
There's a lot happening in Vermont. We need all of the immigrants. Please come move there. There's a huge lack of young people. And so I'm trying to do my part. I have a solar asset management business, Brattleboro Solar Management. Look me up. And I juggle solar systems. I manage them. I make sure they all work well. I'm trying to make sure that the solar industry in Vermont can handle what we need it to handle in the next couple decades.
Yeah, as we move in with the Green New Deal.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I hope that happens. So I'm just trying to do my part and work my ass off.
Awesome. Well, I hope to have you back on here.
Yeah.
We'll get to talk more politics.
Yeah.
And
another episode.
Yeah, always. And you could find me at Johnny Jabbour on Instagram, on Twitter. That's JOHNNYJABBOUR. Like, comment, subscribe. Share this, Anna. I hope you share this with your people. They get to see hope this was riveting. Hope people get to see the style of conversation that I like to have.
I hope it makes people think.
Yeah.
And to start conversations with their friends and their neighbors.
Yeah.
So politics don't feel as isolating.
We shouldn't shy away from talking about these issues. You saw Anna and I, we agreed on a lot. We disagreed on some stuff, but we love each other, and I hope everyone's out there having these conversations. And
totally.
I guess we'll catch you again. This has been Sparring Session number 1 on Johnny's Jabs.